I sent my parents $2,200 every month, but when my daughter turned 10, they skipped the party without a word. I called, and my mom laughed and said, "She's not really family to us." I didn't say a word. I started acting. 1 hour later, my mom was screaming. For 3 years, I sent my parents $2,200 every single month, no exceptions. Not for holidays, not when I was laid off for a few weeks, not even when my husband quit his job and decided he needed time to figure things out. I kept sending the money, always telling myself they'd done their best with what they had, and this was just me giving back. It was the one thing I could hold on to feel like I was a good daughter, even when I was drowning. My mom always said family came first. I clung to that like it was a promise, even when it started feeling more like a threat. My daughter turned 10 last Saturday. We planned everything for weeks. She wanted a unicorn-themed party in the backyard, so I made it happen. I stretched my budget so far it nearly snapped. I made her favorite food, hired a face painter, even rented a small pony for the kids to take pictures with. My husband didn't help with any of it, but by now that wasn't a surprise. He mostly plays video games and talks about starting a podcast that never materializes. But this day was about her. I wanted her to feel special, loved, especially by my parents, who'd been there the day she was born, who held her as a baby, who always smiled in every photo like she was everything. They didn't show up, no call, no text, nothing. At first, I thought maybe they were running late. Then maybe something had happened. I tried calling my mom, twice. No answer. I called my dad, straight to voicemail. An hour into the party, while kids were playing and music was blasting, I went inside and tried one more time. This time, my mom picked up. I didn't even ask where they were. I just said we were waiting. She laughed. Actually laughed. Then she said, and I remember every word, "We didn't think it was that important. She's not really family to us, you know that." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just stared at the wall. Something about how casually she said it. It didn't sound cruel. It sounded honest. Like they'd always felt that way. Like the granddaughter I loved more than anything was a stranger to them, just because of who her father was, or maybe because she wasn't useful to them. I hung up. I walked back outside and sang happy birthday with everyone else. I smiled for the pictures. I handed out cake and made sure my daughter never saw the storm inside me. But in that moment, something shifted permanently. My whole life, I tried to be a bridge between them and the life I was building. I bent over backwards to keep the connection alive, but bridges get burned too. 1 hour later, when the party was winding down, I told my best friend I needed to step out for a bit. He stayed with my daughter. I drove straight to my parents' house, the one I paid for, the one where they never had to lift a finger. Their car was parked in the driveway, the brand new SUV I bought them on credit because my mom said her back hurt in her old car, and my dad said his knees made it hard to drive anything low. I didn't knock. I used the spare key and got in. I started the car. I backed out of the driveway and left. They didn't even realize it until I was halfway home. My mom started calling me nonstop. 10 missed calls. Then the texts started pouring in. "Where are you going with the car? Why are you doing this? What's wrong with you?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. They thought this was a reaction. It wasn't. This was a response 10 years in the making, and it wasn't going to stop with the car. By the time I got home, the texts had turned into voicemails. My mom's voice climbed from confused to angry to demanding. My dad tried calling once, just once, and then nothing from him again. I parked the car in our driveway and just sat there. The SUV still had their church bumper sticker on it and one of those pine tree air fresheners hanging from the rearview mirror. It smelled like their house. I sat in silence for a full minute before I opened the glove box and pulled out the registration. Still in my name. I'd made all the payments, every single one. They'd never once contributed a dime. That night, after my daughter fell asleep, I opened my laptop and canceled the winter trip to Aspen. First-class flights, lodge reservations, ski passes, all of it. I'd been planning it for months. We were supposed to go as a family, just like we had 2 years ago. My parents had said they couldn't afford a trip like that without me. Now they wouldn't be going at all. When the cancellation emails came through, I forwarded them to my mom with no message attached. She didn't respond. Not until the next morning. That's when she called me 10 times in a row. I picked up on the 11th. She asked me if I'd lost my mind. She told me I was being disrespectful. She said canceling the trip without discussing it was cruel. Then she said something I'll never forget. "You need to stop acting like you're in control of this family." I didn't reply. She kept talking, said I was ungrateful, said I was being dramatic over a kid's birthday, said if I didn't fix it all soon, I'd regret it. I hung up again and blocked her number this time. Then I called the credit company and arranged to have the car voluntarily repossessed. I wasn't going to make another payment on it. They said they'd send someone to pick it up in 2 days. I didn't tell my husband any of this. He was in the garage all morning, editing an episode of the podcast he never recorded. He still thought we were going to Aspen. Still thought I was going to cover his ski rental like last time. That night, while he played video games and my daughter slept beside me after reading her birthday book, I lay awake and thought about everything I'd done to please people who only knew how to take, and how quiet the house was now that I'd stopped answering calls. It wasn't guilt I felt. It was relief. But I knew this wasn't the end. My parents didn't like being told no. They didn't like losing control, and I had just started pulling back everything they thought they were entitled to. The real storm was coming. 3 days after I canceled the trip, the SUV disappeared from the driveway. The repo company came earlier than scheduled, probably before the sun even came up. I stood at the window with a cup of coffee, watching them hook it up. The truck looked huge next to that shiny SUV, the one my mom used for her weekly spa appointments and church appearances. I didn't feel sorry. I didn't even feel nervous. I felt done. By noon, the emails started. The subject line on the first one, "Real mature, Gail." I didn't open it. Then another came, longer, angrier. She said I'd embarrassed them, that neighbors saw the car getting taken, that it made them look like criminals. She threw in a few lines about all they'd sacrificed for me growing up, as if I didn't already pay them back for every favor 10 times over. Then she wrote that if I wanted to punish them, I should have at least done it privately. Punish. That was her word. Like I was some spoiled brat throwing a tantrum, not a grown woman finally shutting off the tap after a decade of being used. I left the email unread. I moved it straight to a folder I labeled "For Court," if it ever comes to that. But I didn't expect what they did next. That Saturday, my cousin Jessica called out of nowhere. She sounded nervous, like she wasn't sure if she should even be talking to me. She asked if I was okay, then paused. I said yes. Then she told me about the little family get-together my parents hosted the night before. A barbecue at their house, dozens of relatives, everyone but me. I asked her flat out if my name came up. She hesitated, then said, "Yeah, not just came up." My mom stood in the middle of the living room and told the whole group I was struggling mentally. She said I'd been isolating myself, acting paranoid, refusing to talk to anyone. And then this part hit different. She said she was worried I might be on drugs, that I was going through something dark. Jessica said some people were uncomfortable. A few aunts looked confused, but others nodded like this all made sense. Like it explained everything. My dad apparently sat there on the patio with a drink and didn't say a single word. Didn't correct anything. Didn't stop her. He never does. Jessica only told me because she felt weird about the whole thing and thought I should know. But she said it like she was sorry for even being involved. After I hung up, I just sat there. I felt cold. It's one thing to be betrayed quietly. It's another to be slandered in public to people who once held you as a baby. Later that evening, I started getting texts and calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Aunts, uncles, second cousins who hadn't said a word to me in years, all of them suddenly interested, asking if I was okay, if I needed help, if I wanted to talk. One said she was just concerned and only reaching out with love. I knew the script. I had seen it play out before. My mom poisons the well, then watches to see who drinks from it. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I posted one photo on Facebook, just the SUV parked neatly in my driveway 2 days before the repo came. The caption said, "Just a reminder, I bought this. I can take it back. Same goes for everything else." No names, no arguments, no context. Within minutes, I saw who unfollowed me. 3 relatives, then 2 more. An hour later, a message came through from a brand new profile. No picture, no friends. "You don't know what you've started." It was her, no doubt. But she was wrong. I knew exactly what I'd started, and I was nowhere near finished. After the Facebook post, everything went quiet. No calls, no emails, no fake accounts. It was the kind of silence that doesn't mean peace, it means planning. I kept going to work, packing my daughter's lunches, coming home to the same husband on the couch, the same dishes in the sink, the same excuses. On the surface, nothing changed, but I could feel something shifting, like I'd stepped out of line, and they were deciding how to shove me back in. The first crack came from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was a woman from a furniture rental company. She said my parents had just leased a new living room set and that the payment failed. She asked if I was still the guarantor on the account and if I wanted to update my card. I replayed it twice. They had used my name without asking, without even warning me, after everything. I called back and told her I had not authorized anything and that I would not be paying. She apologized and said they would retrieve the furniture. I hung up and just stared at the wall. It was almost impressive how confident they were, like I was still theirs to use. 2 days later, something else happened. I was making pasta for my daughter, checking homework at the kitchen table when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it, and there was Jessica. She looked uncomfortable, like she was already regretting being there. She said she couldn't stay long. She handed me something wrapped in a scarf. It was a small voice recorder. She told me she'd been at my parents' gathering and hadn't meant to record anything. She uses it for work and had forgotten it was on in her purse. She said she listened to it later and didn't know what to do with it, but after seeing the things my mom was posting and hearing what people were saying, she thought I should have it. I waited until my daughter was asleep. Then I sat on my bed and pressed play. At first, it was just background noise, plates, people talking over each other. Then my mom's voice came through clearly. She wasn't just complaining. She was laying out a plan. She said I was unstable, that I was isolating myself, that I was making reckless decisions. She told them she was worried about my mental state and that she and my dad were looking into legal options to step in. She talked about control, about protecting assets, about making sure I didn't waste what I had. Someone joked about getting me evaluated. There was laughter. Another voice said maybe they could talk to my husband. My mom said she already had. That part made me sit up. She said he was frustrated with me and that he understood how hard it was to live with someone unpredictable. She said he was on their side. I listened to the whole thing. 40 minutes of people discussing me like I wasn't a person, like I was a problem to solve. When it ended, I didn't cry. I didn't throw the recorder. I didn't call anyone. I opened my laptop and searched for family attorneys. Then I searched for financial abuse. Then I started pulling bank statements, loan documents, text messages, emails, screenshots of everything. They thought I was spiraling. In reality, I had never been more focused, and they had just handed me proof. I spent the next 3 weeks getting organized. Every spare minute after work, after school pickups, after pretending I didn't know what my husband had done, I was documenting. I made folders. Physical ones. Digital ones. I printed out every bank transfer I'd made to my parents for the last 10 years. Highlighted every monthly payment. The house. The utility bills I'd quietly paid off behind the scenes when they claimed they were in a tight spot. The medical copays. The flight tickets, the grocery runs, I handed it all over to my lawyer. I didn't even know what I was looking for at first. Revenge, justice, maybe just clarity. But what I did know was that I needed protection. Because if my own parents were willing to call me mentally unfit and recruit my husband behind my back, they were capable of worse. I wasn't going to wait around to find out. The first thing we did was remove me legally from anything connected to them. The house deed was in my name. Not anymore. I gave them 60 days to vacate or start paying market rent. The utilities, I shut off anything I was covering. Credit lines closed. They didn't know yet, but they would. Then I changed the locks on my own house, not because they had keys, but because my husband did. That same night, I sat him down. I told him I knew about the conversations with my mother. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just told him plainly that I had heard the recording. He didn't deny it. He didn't even look surprised. He said he felt pressured, that they made it sound like I needed help. I told him to pack a bag. He moved in with a friend the next day. By the end of the week, word had spread. My parents were served with a formal demand letter informing them of their legal obligations and that their access to the home and car was terminated. I heard through the grapevine they were stunned, called it disrespectful, a betrayal after all we did for her. But it didn't end there. They started scrambling. My mom tried to get ahead of the story, messaging relatives and friends, spinning it however she could. She said I was cutting them off because they refused to babysit, that I had become arrogant with money. She even suggested my daughter was being neglected and hinted that they were concerned. She forgot something, though. People talk, and not everyone in her family likes her as much as she thinks. Screenshots of her messages made it back to me. Some of the people she confided in had been on my side the whole time, just quietly waiting. Once they saw the documents I'd sent to the lawyer, a few of them started pulling away from her. Then, out of nowhere, my dad's job, his part-time position at a local community center, let him go. Something about reputational risk. I didn't ask questions. I hadn't contacted them. But I had a feeling someone had. That same day, the furniture rental company finally picked up their living room set. Two neighbors watched it all from their porches. By now, my mom had tried texting me from 3 different numbers. She said they had nowhere to go, that I was destroying their lives. She still didn't get it. I wasn't destroying anything. I was just done saving them from the consequences of their own choices. I never responded to any of my mom's new numbers. Not when she begged, not when she threatened, not even when she tried using my daughter as bait, saying things like, she'll want to know her grandparents someday. The truth is, I stopped caring what my parents felt. Not out of bitterness, but because I finally understood they never cared what I felt. Not when I was 10, trying to earn affection by being useful. Not when I was 20, sending half my paycheck so they could keep their cable. And not now, when I was the only reason they had a roof over their heads for the last 5 years. A few weeks after the legal letters went out, I got a certified envelope in the mail. Inside was a handwritten letter from my mother. 10 pages, front and back. Not an apology, not even close. She called me cruel. She said I was turning my daughter against her blood. She said no one would ever love me the way they did, and that I'd thrown that away for pride. She ended the letter with, "When you need us again, we won't be here." I sat with that for a while, and then I threw it out. That night, my daughter and I had dinner on the floor with takeout containers and a blanket, watching some cartoon she loved. She didn't ask about her grandparents. She hadn't since the party. It was like even she knew, at 10 years old, that people who don't show up don't get to stay. The following Monday, I filed for divorce. I had already removed my husband from our joint accounts. He didn't fight me. He had too much to lose. His reputation. What little he had left of it. And the fact that I had proof he'd been talking about me behind my back to people who were actively trying to harm me. A few days later, he texted me, "You really don't need anyone, do you?" I didn't reply. He was right. In the end, they all expected me to fall apart, that I'd come crawling back, that I needed their approval, their help, their presence. What none of them realized was that I'd spent a decade building a life on top of broken foundations, and now I was finally clearing it all out, brick by brick. It's been 2 months. I live in a smaller place now. It's quiet, clean. My daughter's drawings are on the fridge. She sings while brushing her teeth. I sleep through the night. I haven't spoken to my parents. I won't. Not ever again. As for my husband, he's someone else's project now. Me? I'm free. That's the real story. Not revenge. Not drama. Just one woman who finally stopped apologizing for choosing peace over everything else.